Show Me Your Papers by Karen of Gaia. In an ongoing attempt to paint the pictures via words to expose this reality for what it is, here's yet another allegory as it pertains to this world in which we live. While we have never really been shown or told our true history, let me simply use what we do know somewhat to illustrate without intent of fear porn in your mind, where it is only the contrast and comparisons I wish to show. At the end of the Second Banker-sanctioned World War, many people from all walks of life faced the hangman's noose due to their just doing my job Nazi sympathizers' predicament. Today we have the exact same thing in the form of anyone who supports the legal system, commerce control system, be they cops, tellers, people who work for weapons creation, lawyers, social workers, teachers, scientists, etc. ad infinitum. You will be hard-pressed to find anyone not engaging in the worldwide corruption where claiming that they're just doing their job places their necks in the very same noose Nazi collaborators found themselves hanging from. The first thing a cop asks for is legal name ID, as in show me your papers, just like the bank employee or court will do the same. How many of you asked the question as to why somehow these papers were so critical to this corporate machine? I mean, it seems harmless enough on the surface, but it doesn't take too long to see that the entire legal and banking corpses are completely dependent on we, the living, to take on this dead persona in order that they can and will literally feed on us. The entire control base is fixated and ultimately hinged on this one little detail, requiring everyone to show their papers in all walks of life. Things like buying a house, cars, starting a business, going to school, etc., are all dependent on the legal name. So I simply took the time to ask why. What I uncovered was a plan so brilliantly simple, it defied belief at first glance, but I knew in my heart I was on to something huge, regardless of what my program by the system mind was screaming at me. I know many of you have often felt the same, and did a lot of digging on your own. While I know the spiritual ramifications of this little ruse, I will keep it literal because there is no point in me even trying to explain that if even the simplest of logical things in this physical reality cannot be grasped first. Here are a few points to ponder to see just how controlled you are by means of a legal name. You can try these things for yourself if you need the proof of this, but I think you'll figure it out by simply imagining trying to open a bank account without ID. Try getting a child in school without ID. Try and buy a house or a car without ID, but then you couldn't even open a bank account without it. Do not confuse ID with a birth certificate, because a BC cannot be used for ID purposes, only to obtain government ID to make sure it is you committing fraud and not the system controllers. Once you have grasped this truth and reality, you'll start to see why anyone who works for a bank or government agency is simply a Nazi collaborator just doing their job. The real trick here is that these people are fully unaware of the absolute harm they are doing to humanity because this evil has been made to seem so normal in our everyday lives. Regardless, a fact is a fact, and there is no escaping truth, no matter how many excuses and lies they come up with, due to their ignorance. Ignorance of the true law is not a defense from it or of it. It's the same as offering a ride to a group of people who ask you to stop by the bank for a minute. What you don't know is that the ones you've given the ride to just went in and robbed that bank and killed a few people in the process as they pile back into your car and tell you to drive. No, you weren't aware of what they were planning, but then you didn't ask why, and you're fully responsible for picking them up in the first place. You'll get hanged along with them due to your ignorance and irresponsibility. When a cop asks for ID, they are seeking jurisdiction over you. If you give them legal ID, then you have just committed a felony, fraud, claiming to be something that belongs to the Crown Corporation by copyright. Not only that, but when you use or show ID, you are now considered legally dead by your own consent. You have literally surrendered your body, with you in it, due to the fact that your body was given to the Crown via registration by your own parents, unknowingly. We are living in a world of the dead, by consent, and we wonder why we have no power. When you fully understand the magnitude of this truth, you will see the matrix fall down around you, literally. You'll also explode into 1,000 questions relating mostly to things like, how do I survive without a legal name, etc. And it is at this point that you need to simply shut up and breathe, literally. You've been under the legal name hypnosis spell for a very long time, and it is quite a reality shift upon awakening to this fact. It is a fact, and certainly a most uncomfortable one for the newly awakened. There are many of us that have been there for a long time, and I'm here to assure you, it only gets better from here. Fact. Show me your papers was the common mantra for the black uniformed Gestapo and Waffen-SS in exactly the same way that all police forces now wear black, are armed to the teeth, and usually jacked up on steroids and methadone. Such has been my own personal experience dealing with these jackbooted thugs. Yes, there are a few that chose to be a cop for honorable reasons, but they are being systematically rooted out if they dare challenge their masters within. I've talked to too many ex-cops that have verified not only this, but the legal name fraud fact as well. Simply not carrying ID is not enough if one doesn't know who one truly is, and rest assured, the universe does know you and who you are, so don't try lying to yourself, because you're part of the universe devoid of secrets, like it or not. There is simply no hiding from truth anywhere. And it is this truth that has all wrongdoers already known by the heart of all creation. No courts required. I and countless others do not have, use, or carry any form of dead by consent ID, and as a result, this system collapses before us. We cannot be arrested for statute nonsense, but bear in mind, if you commit harm, nothing in this universe will protect you, and why would it? Our children cannot be kidnapped by social worker kidnappers. Our homes cannot be stolen via foreclosure because without our consent to be their legal name, they have no jurisdiction. Given the fact that everything a bank or legal system does is based entirely on this name fraud game, every loan, mortgage, credit card is pure fraud against humanity anyway. The show me your papers types live in a two-dimensional flat earth paper world that they think are squiggles on a piece of paper. The only way these two deers can steal from you is by your free will consent. You do it to yourself, so who's the real idiot here? Without a legal name, there is no cop, court, or jail on this planet that can touch you, hold you, or steal from you with you standing in peaceful, benevolent truth. The reason why cops never get charged with murder and end up with wrist slaps is because they have not actually killed anyone that didn't agree to be dead by consent using a legal name in the first place. While this may sound hard to believe, it is true, and only the whining and blaming in your own mind has you thinking otherwise. I simply asked myself, why were these criminals getting away with murder? And the fact is, they weren't committing murder. If you use a legal name, your body belongs to the Crown, since conception. See G-I-F-T, gift in Black's Law, as it relates to given name, as it was surrendered to the Crown by its creators, your parents. You didn't create the body. Alas, the plot thickens. How many people do you know that are disgusted with governments, royalty, priest and rabbi child rapings, etc.? How many people have tried every manner of legal avenue only to find a dead end and further harms against you and those you love? The answer is so simple, because dead men tell no tales, and they have no voice. And why anyone who enters a courtroom must use a crime-loving thief lawyer to speak for them. It's because you are legally dead by consent. The birth certificate is also a death certificate that creates a dead entity that is not you and has nothing to do with you. And if you use a legal name created by the BCDC, you are claiming your death status, forever silenced and devoid of power, because that has been given to another. For many of you, this is the toughest pill to swallow, but creates the sweetest of freedoms in return power and voice once you choke it down with the waters of truth. Don't worry, I was as duped as you are or were as well, with the only difference being that I chose to look and then do something about it. This whole world is upside down and backwards, and people see it as normal. Well, let me describe Show Me Your Papers normal for you then. If you agree with the system and its courts, religions, and governments, you're saying that war is fine, murder's okay, child kidnappings are peachy, child rape, theft, corruption, and fraud, and every other crime you can think of is okay in your world. In my world, I call that insane. So who's the crazy one here? I don't care what your job is, but if it requires you to aid and abet another human being into committing fraud by demanding them to show you their papers, well, you're a Nazi sympathizer. And a noose is too kind a punishment for those who support an insane world. It is a far greater crime to witness a crime and do nothing about it because you have the responsibility of knowing a crime is being created. You are worse than the criminals themselves committing the crime because you had the means to stop it and did nothing. Crimes can only be committed if they are allowed to be committed. Where those that choose to videotape a cop or cops beating someone to death and do nothing to stop the crime, preferring YouTube stats over another human being's life. The days of cops killing people just because they think they can are over. The name fraud is exposed, nunc pro tunc, which means all crimes committed in the past are now due in full for payment, as per universal law. I have no need to judge anything either, because when someone commits an act of harm, they already know they're guilty, and then they proceed to cover it up as if the universal all-mind didn't notice. You can bitch and complain all you like as to how corrupt the system is, how sick you are of mindless system theft through fines and tickets and taxes, stolen goods, and you can gripe all you want about children being stolen, kidnapped, raped, abused, all you want, but the hard, cold truth is simply this. You're the cause by being of the Whore of Babylon system, by your choice to be a dead legal name. And there is nothing you can say or do to disprove this fact. Alas, you will try, because you're so used to blaming others for your woes, threatening lawsuits, seeking vengeance on your neighbors, and all manner of childish retardation. You simply have a choice now. Continue to demand, show your dead slave status papers, or stop being a Nazi supporter, like those of us in the living world, who are completely untouchable by virtue of our willingness to call out and stop criminals like you, who, through your vanity and ignorance, allow the crimes to continue. Well, I did say it was a tough pill to swallow, but then that's a lot better than trying to swallow your bullshit excuses as to why you think insanity and murder are okay. Now go get a glass of water since I've just jammed that pill down your selfish, self-serving throat. Show me your papers. Go fuck yourself.